Hello everyone and welcome back to Talking the PS, your weekly PlayStation podcast for episode number 13, where we round up all of the PlayStation and cloud gaming news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on Helix Cloud Games, up there in the digital clouds on your podcast preference of choice, or right here on youtube.com. We've got a great show lined up for you, breaking down all of the amazing content that dropped from the Ubisoft Forward this week, the Disney Marvel Showcase. We've got some news that's came through the week regarding Cyberpunk, system updates for the PS5, and much, much more. But before we do get into all that, don't forget to give the video a like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you are kept in the loop with all of the great content we give you here at Helix Cloud Games, like our first looks, our live streams, our weekly PlayStation Sound of Stadia, and CloudQuest podcast, all of the great content here on the show. But before we do get into all of it, welcoming my two returning co-hosts, the man of many pixels, Mr. Richie.
Hello, everyone.
And our chaotic neutral, Rob. Welcome back.
Thank you. You got my name right this week as well.
Oh, sorry, Richie.
I haven't forgot that.
Richie. I haven't forgot that. That's still a thing. I called him Richie last week, Richie.
I heard. It made me chuckle.
It's just a slip of the tongue. It's not intentional, John. Don't worry. I mean, Rob, sorry. At least I haven't called you anything terrible. I mean,
I was actually listening to the show at work.
Yeah, not to my
and you
face,
know when you
yeah.
just have an audible chuckle and everyone looks at you and go, "Oh yeah, I laughed at something." Oh, what was it? It's like my show.
My show.
Yeah, I'm not on it. It's fine.
Yeah. You got to enjoy it as a fan last week, which was different. It's kind of
nice.
It is. It's weird. It's kind of surreal in a weird way. But as I said, we've got a great show. Lots of video game news to talk about, of course. We will get into the thick of it. But before we do start, of course, wanted to address the big news of the week. Queen Elizabeth II passed away, so rest in peace, Her Majesty. Anyone out there who's mourning, of course, yes, our best wishes to you and the family out there, whether you're a royalist or not. Big part of our history, big part of the world's history, and the like we'll probably never see again. So moving on to the actual show, though, a couple of bits of housekeeping before we do get into the thick of it. Our Helix Cloud Games celebration, our 3-year anniversary, is on the horizon. Saturday, the 1st of October, we have a whole day of streams, gameplay, and giveaways. We've got merch, we've got stickers, we've got a Google Nest Mini to give away, so lock in, stay tuned, and of course, follow us on social media so you can be kept in the loop with all of the news that comes out regarding that. But we're just looking forward to celebrating 3 years. We're going to get some beers and some pizza and just have a good old time with you, the viewers and listeners, and our fantastic community out there. Boys and girls, we've got a great show. Before we do get into it, Richie, did you get that Ghost of Tsushima Platinum? You weren't here last week.
I did.
Yes.
And I completed E.T. Island DLC.
How did you find the DLC?
I enjoyed it. It was an interesting story. I didn't do everything there is to do in there because I was like, after over 70 hours of playing Ghost of Tsushima, I was kind of ready to move on. So I just want to experience this story, and I'm good.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it.
Good. And now you're thinking about God of War leading up to the Ragnarok?
Yeah, I think that would be the next big game I'm gonna go for.
Dig into it. I might join you on that crusade as well. Rob, how about yourself?
It's been more Red Faction.
Still on the Red
Faction. I'm so
Faction
deep
bin.
into that game now. Yeah, I'm doing like the extreme difficulty now.
Wow.
For no other reason, I just want to. But yeah, man, the little universe has just got me sucked in. I'm even reading the Red Faction wiki pages.
The law.
To understand the motives of the Ultra Corporation and things like that.
So
that's where my time's went.
Does the main guy have a name in it, or is he just a silent protagonist?
No, he's called Parker.
Parker. God, it's been so long.
Yeah.
We're probably actually due a new reboot of Red Faction, to be fair. I actually think it would work really well. The premise of it's so
I think
cool.
it would as well.
And obviously Embracer Group own it, and they're shitting out remakes for everything else, so no surprise. And yeah, a first-person shooter set on Mars with modern graphics could work fantastic.
Yeah, I'd love to see a current gen, well, I don't know what your version of current gen is, that version of the entirely destructible universe. That could be crazy, right?
Yeah, well, Microsoft tried it with Crackdown, and that didn't work out very well in terms of the game's popularity. But in terms of destructible environments, fantastic. So Minecraft environments, yeah, we'll see it. I'm finished with The Last of Us Part 1 remake. Got the platinum yesterday, so that's done, finished, polished off.
Still can't believe how quickly you got through that.
I know, Jesus.
About 15 hours was my total play time. I think I said to you the other day, Richie, I have platinum this game on PS3 and the remastered version on PS4. So, and for those platinums, you have to finish it on grounded mode. So I've played it on the absolute hardest difficulty, and you have to know every inch of the level to get through it. Sometimes the Part 1 remake has no difficulty trophy. So straight away I could just play through it on, I think I played through it on moderate difficulty. Knew where all the collectibles were pretty much. I actually have, from the PS3 version, I've got the guide, like the art book guide, because like I just loved it so much. So it's all ingrained up in here. But yeah, I said with Rob last week, but I played the Left Behind DLC because it's part of the trophy list yesterday. Game's so damn good. It looks beautiful. Like what Naughty Dog do with the facial animations, the emotion. It felt like at times playing it for the first time. Like it was really refreshing. Even though I've seen the story so many times over, it was like, wow, that's such a good game. So maybe not worth £70 for people out there, but yeah, when you ever get a chance to go back and play it when you've got that itch, definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, with how long it took you to play through, I guess it'd probably be around about 20 to 30 hours for me, so I'm kind of glad I haven't jumped in yet. And I'd made a decision, I'm going to wait for it to come to PlayStation Plus, and then I might do a 1-2 back-to-back situation.
I have got an urge to play 2 again, though, now, just to see more of it. But yeah, with Ragnarok on the horizon, I think I might even do it on the channel, actually, because it is on PlayStation Cloud, God of War, so... Might jump back in with that one. But yeah, plenty of PlayStation games to talk about and play about. So that's what we've been playing. Do let us know in the comments below what you guys out there have been chipping away at this past week or so. We'd love to hear your thoughts and input. But moving things on to the actual thick of the show. Richie, you don't get to do it on this show. So I meant, when I said Richie there, I actually meant Rob. Could you introduce us to the
properly prepared PlayStation Perusing Points, aka the news.
The news. And nice little fun fact, for the first time yesterday, Richie, if anyone was checking out the Sounds of Stadia podcast, the news animation that comes in, not in the show, for the first time in like 2.5 years, because I straight up forgot to do it. And then in the edit, I forgot to do it. And then it was only when I was doing the timestamps I realised, and it was like, am I going to sit here and render out a whole additional show for the sake of the words coming on the screen? It was like,
Technically, it's the second time because I didn't have the asset, so I didn't do it in the episode I edited.
Oh, come on, guys.
Wow,
Standards are slipping right now. It's like twice in 2 months. God.
It's you're a bad influence, Rob. As soon as you come on board, things start falling.
I know, right? Everything goes to shit, right? Why does this always happen to me?
So we'll blame Jeff. Jeff's not here as well. We'll blame Jeff and Tom. We'll just blame the two of them because they're not here. But yes, plenty of news. We'll get into it. We want to start things off with the Ubisoft Forward event. That happened this past Saturday. If you want to check it out, the full watch-along is available on the channel with you, the lovely audience. We checked it out this past Saturday. And we did get some big announcements. They did give some updates on games we're not really going to go into and touch on because we're probably just fed up with them, to be honest. There was Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope. That's Nintendo, so we don't need to worry about that. There was Skull and Bones, bit more of a catch-up regarding the pirate world. Didn't really do anything for me and Richie to kind of get hooks in us. Any more than it did. There was some additional things for games that are already existing, so like Trackmania got an update, Brawlhalla, The Crew 2. Your typical Ubisoft kind of updates, the pomp and circumstance around their games as a service titles like Riders Republic, Rainbow Six Siege.
Stuff.
Yeah, updates on stuff we knew, but nothing kind of like, I can't believe they did that. And then we got to an Assassin's Creed showcase, which was the bulk of the show. There was a showcase within a showcase, showcasing some new games. And off the back of that, we got the confirmation of Assassin's Creed Mirage was their first big title that they announced. And we knew about this because it was leaked and then it was confirmed by Ubisoft not too long ago, actually. They did come out and clarify it was Basim from Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It was going to be a smaller, more condensed story focused on that individual, set in Baghdad back in I think it was 800 AD. But we finally know a little bit more about it now. They announced a kind of trailer to showcase it off. Richie, I'll throw it over to you. It's coming to the PlayStation Store for £50, so it is a slightly cheaper game than we're used to seeing from Assassin's Creed, probably because it's a story. Where are your vibes now on Mirage? Now we've seen a little bit more of it. We know the price and we know it's coming out early 2023.
I was already kind of in on this game from the concept what they're saying. Like they're going back closer to like the original like Assassin's Creed, bit more focused on story, a bit more focused on stealth, seemingly a bit of more of a tighter narrative and not going for this massive open world. It's kind of everything I've been wanting from Assassin's Creed. This didn't really change anything. It just kind of confirmed a lot of the things I want from this game. So I'm in at 50, depending on how long it is, £50 may be pricey. I hope by the time like this game drops, Ubisoft Plus is on PlayStation, which is where ideally I'll be playing it because I'm happy to pay for a month of Ubisoft Plus to play through this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They showcased a lot from the trailer. To give a bit more context, the actual pre-order page lists it as a narrative-driven action-adventure experience that follows the transformation of a defiant young man into a refined master assassin with a conflicted destiny, meeting an inspiring cast of characters who will shape Basim's destiny and maybe more than what they seem. The ultimate assassin become a versatile assassin in the most versatile assassin franchise history, parkour seamlessly through the streets and leverage the largest assortment of tools to date, get contracts at the Assassin's Bureau, collect vital clues, and stealthily take down targets with more visceral assassinations than ever before. A more immersive city, dense and vibrant, whose inhabitants react to your every move, uncover the secrets of 4 unique districts from the industrial Kark to the lush gardens of the Round City, discover surprising world events, and interact with historical figures that shaped the golden age of Baghdad. So it reads as though it's almost like a return to the original one, with like the Middle Eastern setting, and he's an assassin, he's finding his way through the Brotherhood, you've got the contracts, you've got the Assassin's Bureau, you've got the stealthy takedowns. Rob, is this Assassin's Creed definitively returning to its roots, do we think?
I'd hope so. And certainly from everything that comes out, it seems that way. The price point, perfect for me, because I would struggle to spend kind of full retail on like a decidedly like more less content-filled game, at least from an open world perspective, should I say. But no, it just seems like everything that comes out about this game, the more and more little drips we get, the more and more excited I am about it. And I haven't been able to say that about an Assassin's Creed game for a long, long time, really. I think it must have been... Origins got me excited because obviously like the genres like switch up if you want. But yeah, this seems... I've got nothing bad to say about this at all, which is a rarity for me and Ubisoft.
Yeah, it's an interesting approach that they've got to it. And it's obviously, I think this was initially Valhalla DLC that then got spun off into its own standalone, but I think kind of what Richie was saying with the last one's been about 20 hours or so. If you tell me this is just a condensed, focused story about 20 to 30 hours, it's a little bit cheaper than a normal one. Obviously, it's not going to come with its own DLC because it's in itself is a DLC spin-off originally. If it's condensed and focused, coming out kind of probably next springtime, I think it could work really, really well for Assassin's Creed. And they can have this kind of two-pronged approach where they have their giant RPG games, but then on the flip side, every other year they maybe can add a little interstitial, smaller title. It could do well for the franchise to have almost like the best of both worlds without having to commit to one fan base or the other who prefers one type.
Yeah, absolutely. I just hope it does well. I hope people get behind it because it will kind of... The branch will be kind of validated on whether the game's good or not, right? And if whether it sells. So I just hope everyone gets behind it.
For me, the strength of the Assassin's Creed franchise is in the world building, is in the stories they're telling. So this kind of is focusing on that element, but like removing some of the weaker stuff where this obsession with the last trilogy of games making this massive open world, but which kind of started before then, but filling it full of stuff that in a lot of cases just isn't interesting or detracts from the main narrative. So having a more stripped back focus on what I like about Assassin's Creed, the kind of that under bit behind the scenes struggle between the Assassins and the Templars, and all the lore that goes into both franchises, that is really interesting. So bring it on.
Definitely, yeah. And thankfully we won't have to wait too long. The rumour was it was going to come out the back end of this year, but it looks like it has been put back in the oven for a little bit longer, so early 2023. That wasn't it for Assassin's Creed. As I said, they were celebrating 15 years, a 15-year anniversary, so they had a lot more to tease and show, and they're finally making the move to what we kind of theorised and thought of. Assassin's Creed Project Red was also announced, which is Ubisoft laying down the kind of roadmap for the next 2 major new games coming beyond next year's Assassin's Creed Mirage. This one, set in feudal Japan, Assassin's Creed Project Red will arrive at some point after 2023. It's described as an open-world RPG with a chance for fans to live out their powerful shinobi fantasies. It's in development by the talented Quebec team who'd worked on Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is the probably more favoured of the new reboot trilogy. Guys, we've got it. We're going to the Far East, sorry. Assassin's Creed Japan, as it's probably going to be known for now. Project Red. What do we think? Rob, we theorised about our Dynasty Warriors dreams in China, and there is a version coming out in China. We'll touch on it. It's called Assassin's Creed Project Jade, but it's a mobile game. And so China's designated to mobile for now. However, Project Red, feudal Japan, you're a ninja, shinobi. Where does that sit with you?
Like, really well. I mean, again, like, I've made no kind of allusions to the fact that I'm not super into like the RPG version of Assassin's Creed, but it's the setup makes a lot of sense. There's lots of scope to do things there. The only thing I have been seeing online is like a lot of, I think, unfair comparisons being made with Ghost of Tsushima, and like because it's set in the same kind of location, essentially that's it. But the actual story and it's set, like, I think it's centuries apart.
They're going to be very different games. Like,
yeah, and again, like it's set, like it will be set centuries apart from what I can tell. So it's a bit of a weird one. People saying like, oh well, they're just trying to tackle Ghost of like Tsushima. I don't think that's the case at all.
Yeah, it's one of them.
This is literally the Assassin's Creed people have been crying out for since Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, we laughed a little bit when Ghost of Tsushima beat them to the punch, and by 2024, maybe when this game is scheduled to come out, we might actually be not far out from seeing the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima. And I have myself seen a lot of like people tweeting out and commenting already saying it's probably going to be fun, but Ghost of Tsushima might be better than it. So they're going to have to do, they actively will know they need to do something different now. If this was already like several years in development, you'd be like, all right, okay, they were made at the same time, that no surprise, they're similar. But if this is coming out for another 2 or so years, then at least they have the hindsight to go, we can take what worked well in Tsushima and apply it to our game, but they also are very actively aware they need to do something different, otherwise it's just going to be compared directly, which is going to happen inevitably. Richie, you were just platinumed it. What's your take?
I think the story is going to be very, very different because what it seems like they've seemed to tick that box of what I want Assassin's Creed Japan to be. You're playing the assassins in there are the shinobi, where Ghost of Tsushima you're playing as a samurai and is kind of like he's having that moral conundrum. Does he uphold the ways of a samurai? Or does he do what he believes is right for his people, which means casting aside his honour? That's kind of the internal struggle that Jin goes through throughout his journey. You're not going to get that in Assassin's Creed Codename Red, like because you're going to be a shinobi. That's what you're going to be very much on the covert behind the scenes. I suspect this may be even in like the Warring States era of Japan, where like with the unification of Japan. Okay. So that would be a very interesting and very different time period to tackle compared to like what like Tsushima is in, where Japan's already unified at that point.
Yeah, there's obviously
tons apart from these two games being in Japan, and there's going to be stealth mechanics in both of them. I don't think they're going to be very similar at all. Like
and we know with the way Assassin's Creed is like the traversal. Like Ghost of Tsushima has traversal, but it's very much just like connection point to connection point to connection point. You don't have that freedom of climb up anything. So being a Shinobi Ninja, it might open that up to a lot more variance in attack styles and not so linear, which Ghost of Tsushima is predominantly when it's telling the story. This I'm expecting to be very classical Assassin's Creed with loads of side missions, probably an open world that's stealth, a lot bigger with that as well. But obviously we are a few years out.
I do think this game needs to be one where Valhalla went very hard on the like action focus, where you raid the place, so get off your long ship and charge in. I think this needs to go the other way, where you're being very, very stealthy, taking out your targets, trying to get in and out without being seen, while still being like an action RPG kind of thing.
It might be interesting, and I'd love it personally if they actually went all in on like the RPG elements. If they're kind of splitting off the two kind of arms of the Assassin's Creed kind of franchise, if one was more RPG and like it's a bit more kind of you're a relatively nameless character and you can kind of make like decisions kind of agnostic to a larger plot, that might be interesting as well. But I can't really get into like the watered down version of
where it's just
RPG.
Like a level up system where realistically by the time you finish the game you've got points in everything anyway.
Yeah, like realistically
it's not really
you're playing
an RPG
like
if you just
no,
get
it's not at all.
Like
it's like you're playing a very set character, right? Yeah. There's no kind of like, there's not much choices for you in a game like that, and you can't actually play a role like you want to play. You have to play this guy or this
that
girl.
Always annoyed me about Odyssey actually, because I remember there was one mission. First time I played Odyssey, it was like I had to kill a boar. It was like you could see the boar. I want to stealth it, but no, you had to go to a certain thing to trigger a cutscene to end up in just a straight up fight with it. It's like, but I'm an assassin. It's just assassin.
Yeah.
Why can't I just like take it out?
Yeah,
Well,
and
it's like-
it's that RPG thing as well, where the boar takes about 50 hits to kill, but you can one hit kill like an armed guard who's got all this gear
Yeah.
on him. But yeah, a little pig in the forest. Oh no, because he's a boss pig. He takes like 50 specials and power
Strong
kicks
pig.
and arrow, he's got
That
like
was-
50 arrows in him and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that was just an example for me. It was early in the game of a mission where, because I've been focused on stealth at that point, where it was very hard because like I've been trying to cater my character to play a certain way, and now to do this mission, you're forcing me to not play that way.
Yeah, it's a
rather than
Deus
give me the
Ex
choice
Human
of how do I
Revolution
want to
problem,
tackle
right?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they did that better in Valhalla actually, where you did have a choice because all the forts you didn't have to call a raid.
Yeah.
You could take them out however the hell you liked.
You could, but we are a few years off from this one. I'm just happy to see more stuff happening in Japan. Like for the first time, it's like the until Ghost of Tsushima, we hadn't seen that much, and then we got Sifu earlier on this year as well. And I think that kind of whole culture is just being embraced in kind of the wider world a lot more, and it's great to see. We know there's a Ghost of Tsushima project in the works as well for a movie, so. Could be great. Future's bright with this one. But that's not all we got from Assassin's Creed. They also announced another game, which was Assassin's Creed codename Hexe. Not Hex. They added an E on for some reason. And this one looks a little bit more creepier. The trailer, again, very very thin on the ground in terms of details. Just showed the logo, carved out wood, hanging in some kind of Baba Yaga forest, it looks like. Details are extremely thin, but it seems to be kind of witchcraft inspired. And this has been worked on by the Valhalla team in Ubisoft Montreal. Again, we don't know much of it, but it should be said that codename Hexe and codename Red, they're part of the Assassin's Creed Infinity. So they didn't really explain much of what it was about, but they showed a visual where the two logos showed up and then a little umbrella line kind of appeared above it and it said Infinity. And they did go on to explain that Infinity would be a connected hub world using the power of the Animus to access these games, but they didn't really exaggerate a little bit more on what that meant. So Richie, we've theorized a few times in the past about Assassin's Creed Infinity was going to be this hub world where you log in, you have a Ubisoft account, you create your assassin, and then you can go and experience all these different Assassin's Creed tales through the Animus. So if you wanted to play Assassin's Creed Origins, you would just go play it, and almost like it would become its own Assassin's Creed, almost like games as a service, but all the old content would be there as well, and the new content. And it seems that Hexe, I just want to say Hexe, and Red are going to be part of that.
Yeah, the weird one for me though, is a weird outlier if that's the way they're going, is codename Jade, which is the mobile games. Like, it seems an odd choice to not make that like on console as well and make it part of Infinity.
It might
But
be something they want to keep separate.
Yeah, but it feels like you're creating this platform to link all of Assassin's Creed together. Apart from this new title that we're going to bring out, which is going to be on its own. I don't know. It seems an odd choice.
Yeah. What would
I mean, there's potential with Jade. It's like there could be other kind of like publishing deals in place where it's like they've been committed to it for a while and they just have to make it for whatever reasons. But
we had that moment during the stream where, because that's Jade is set in ancient China. We thought, are they going to waste ancient China on a mobile game? And well, it's harsh saying waste because it's probably going to be a great game, but I have no interest personally of playing a game like a full AAA action RPG on my phone. That's not where I want
not when
to
you sat in
experience
front of a
that sort
TV.
game. Yeah, that's like to play that sort of game. It's not something I'm going to go. Oh, I've got 15 minutes on my lunch break. Let's boot up my phone. That's the sort of thing I've got a couple of hours on the evening to play.
Yeah, well, we did have the 2D side-scrolling Assassin's Creed games that had China, Russia, and I can't remember what the third one was. But either way, they're committing to this kind of codename model, which I'm not a big fan of. I think you've got Assassin's Creed, which represents this like ancient creed of people, and then codename reminds me of like James Bond, Hitman. Like the word codename just sounds like it's more of like a secret spy thing rather than a ancient order of assassins who like have lived throughout history. But
It's a bit of a lazy name as well, isn't it? Really?
I hope it's just a project and it's not the
I
official
actually think
final
all
name.
three of them, Codename Red, Codename Jade, and Codename Hexe, all sound better without the codename in there. Assassin's Creed Red, Assassin's Creed Jade, Assassin's Creed Hexe, they all work better in my opinion without codename
It's an odd
in
marketing choice.
there. So just drop the codename.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I think even yesterday, Richie, when we did the Sounds of Stadia podcast, I was like, I'd quite take like Assassin's Creed Shinobi or something, or just Ninja. Like, just there's so many better words they can use rather than just colours like red, jade, orange, blue.
I've already dropped when I'm talking about it. When I'm talking about red, I'm already shortening it to AC Red.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. To pivot back around to Hexa, so to dig a little bit deeper on what we've got, they did do some breakdown during the actual presentation, saying what it could actually mean for the title, and it seems to be a Blair Witch-esque Sticks and Twigs logo, of course, hanging in the forest. Hexa is German for witch, so if it's set, and I think there was early rumours a few weeks ago that it was reported as going to be set in 16th century Europe, so I think maybe Transylvania, kind of like
Black Forest.
Yeah, like that kind of setup, which could be really fun. If Hexa ends up being a more condensed story like Mirage, but it's horror based.
Yeah.
Again, it works so well because you're talking about like death and murder and like secret societies and stuff, and yeah, it could lean very much into the world of horror, and we've seen them lean into the mythological trippy stuff anyway, with all of the Valhalla content, Odyssey with the kind of the giant soldiers, Origins with the giant scorpions and the Anubis warriors and stuff, so that they're not afraid to lean into the crazy and non-realistic. They could do it with this one with witches and monsters in the forest.
Yeah. I think potentially you don't even have to do that. Like the occult kind of, the people who get involved in the occult are like creepy enough without having anything actually like to be scared of, right? The people themselves are like scary as hell.
Whatever spin-off organization of the Templars this is going to be, they're basically dealing with like the pseudo occult. They're doing sacrifices in the forest and worshipping weird pagan gods in a kind of very creepy manner. Like, but I think you lean into like the horror on this. You kind of, it needs to be, I think, like you know how Last of Us is quite uncomfortable to play.
Last of Us 2 more so, but
yeah, kind of that creepy. It's like this is more of an experience. You don't, as much as I love both Last of Us and Last of Us 2, I would never say I looked forward to jumping in on an evening. It's like, I want to play these games, I want to see more of the story, but it's like, oh, this is an uncomfortable few hours right now.
Yeah, no, I get that. Thankfully, that was the end of kind of our Assassin's Creed piece. They, like I said, they didn't show off much in the trailers. It was more of a tease of the logo and the plans ahead for it. A couple of years out, so we won't see too much on that. We did find out Valhalla is going to have its final chapter, rounding out Eivor's story, which we knew about. They didn't really explain that much, but it's going to be here before long. And then Mirage will obviously be our stopgap between this and whatever Red and Hexa and stuff look like in the future. And maybe Infinity, we'll probably see another Ubisoft forward at the turn of the year that'll fill us in on a few more details. And hopefully a few more games, because it was very Assassin's Creed heavy. We didn't really get much, as I mentioned, from other titles. The only really big piece of news we got that wasn't Assassin's Creed related was we had a first look at the Division Heartland. Or Heartlands, I can't remember which one it is. I think it said Heartland in the footage, but I'm sure it had an S on it. I'm sure it had an S on it at some point, which of course takes place in the American Heartland. So take the Division, remove the cityscape, and add it into the kind of the lush forest environments that you would expect to find in the middle of the United States. This one, probably aside from the Assassin's Creed stuff, piqued my interest the most because I enjoy the Division gameplay. I enjoy both Division games. It's been a while since we jumped back in. They did announce a year 5 for Division 2, which has been a long time coming because of COVID and their plans to scrap it initially. Richie, Division Heartland, what do you think of this forest setting environment as opposed to landscape, skyscrapers in city?
It's interesting. I like the Division. 2, I've never played the Division 1. I'm not invested in that world though, so it's like... But it's an interesting change of setting. Let's see how it pans out, see how the story pans out in that game. I don't really have too much to say about it, to be honest.
How about you, Rob?
See, I think like forest settings and kind of like greenery is like super like underutilized in most games. Like I always like think back to Metal Gear Solid 3, like how good the forest sections in that were, because like there was kind of things harder to see, and there was like kind of more like camouflagey, kind of more kind of reserved actions you had to take. And I think if it went down that route, it could... Yeah, essentially, yeah. But I think it is like underutilized, and most of the time you get like kind of the generic grey wrecked city or kind of,
Yeah.
and that's again a bit overdone now, I think.
Absolutely.
In terms of like a scene.
It's a good point, that, because Metal Gear Solid 3 is so visual because of the forest environment. Like, it stands out because you're right, it's not like the green and navy blues. It is like a bright green and like the different shades of brown and amber and stuff that you find in the forest. And you're right, shooters, like, I can't even think of Call of Duty really being in the forest. Of all the iterations we've had of Call of Duty,
No.
in my head, it's always, like you said, destroyed city or like Middle East city or somewhere, or just somewhere ridiculously in the future. I'm trying to think
Uncharted
back.
4 had a nice forest setting.
Which one?
There was like kind of like Uncharted 4. There was kind of like it wasn't a forest necessarily, but it was a big like kind of
Madagascar.
semi-open plan. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like, that did it really well. And again, like that was a bit of a harder part of the game because you had to kind of consider like the greenery and like kind of hunt people out. It was a lot more interesting than your standard kind of dirt track.
Yeah, with the Division, the only thing I can think of that's close is, remember the old Conflict Desert Storm games? They did Conflict Vietnam, and that was like, I think that was like PlayStation 2, but that was the only thing I could really think in my mind that committed to a forest jungle environment that had like guerrilla warfare and traps and pogo sticks comes out. Not pogo, are they called pogo sticks? You know, like when they sharpen bamboo things. Pogo sticks?
I don't know.
Something.
Punjabi pits or
something like that. Yeah, either way, it's like more like guerrilla warfare. It's a cool element that we haven't really seen that much of and you might be rich. You might just come down to rendering a forest and lights, but the way video game engines are now, it should become more of a possibility.
I think with Vietnam would be an interesting setting for like a Call of Duty game. I think it's an unlikely setting because America did not do well in that war.
They didn't.
I think there probably is a part of that, like things like World War II. Like, yeah, America did well in that war. Like, you could argue even stuff in the Middle East. It was at the time very, very recent what's going on, so that's going to sell. But it's like, going back to a war that where America just did not perform well at all. It's like kind of like,
we could play as the Vietnamese for a change. Nothing to say we can't be on the other side.
That's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen.
Absolutely not going to happen.
Might be. You never know.
Do you really reckon American publisher would have America as the high?
Hey, there's more than American publishers out there. Tencent might come in and go, let's do one where China wins everything, and we're not the bad guys, so who knows?
Yeah.
There might be, we won't get into that anyway. Moving on away from the Ubisoft showcase and political preferences, Amy Hennig showed off her game at the Disney Marvel Game Showcase, which we again did react to live and watched along to all 20 minutes of the showcase. That was very short. 10 minutes of it was mobile games, Marvel Strike Force and Niantic, Pokemon Go, superhero new game on its way. But we did get a teaser for a Black Panther and Captain America game set in World War II. Of course, Amy Hennig, famed for her Uncharted approach, Uncharted 1, 2 and 3. She's not put out a game in some time, actually. She's had a couple of her projects cancelled and such. It's going to be a narrative-driven ensemble adventure featuring the two heroes I just mentioned, including T'Challa's grandfather, so Black Panther won't be who we know, Gabrielle Jones, which is a US soldier, and one of the Howling Commandos, in fact, and Nanali, which is a fledgling Wakandan spy. Don't really know much more beyond this. The trailer just kind of teased a couple of like Hydra stuff and a little glimpse at the characters: King, Captain, Soldier, Spy, kind of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy approach to it. Well, now we've reported on the show previous weeks about a Black Panther game possibly from EA, an Iron Man game possibly from EA, and now we get this odd mashup of two heroes that I would never really put in the same place together in World War II. With a single-player adventure where, according to the blurb, you're going to play as all four heroes in different chapters of the story. So it doesn't sound like it's multiplayer, but it sounds like you will spend some time as each one of them. Now we finally got the reveal. Rob, Captain America teaming up with Black Panther in World War II? Is that like a match made in heaven?
I would never have called that in a million years. No. So like the World War II setting, if it was just kind of Black Panther in World War II, like I'd be a bit eye-rolly because like I think World War II is getting a bit overdone now. But adding kind of like the four kind of character dynamic like makes it a lot more interesting for me. I'm hoping that the spy elements aren't going to be like the MJ section of Spider-Man. I'm hoping there's going to be something a bit more kind of substantive to that, which would be nice. But yeah, like I'm pleasantly surprised. And the one thing is, I don't think it's going to be a couch co-op or a multiplayer like type of game. I think it's yeah. So it's like which I'm fine with. But I think what I'll think of when I'm playing through the game is like, oh, this could have been so cool if it was like a couch co-op type of game.
Yeah, there's loads of people thought it might have been Gotham Knights.
I'm glad it's not.
Where it was like all 4 players, you just kind of play as a group going through the story, but it definitively seems single player, which, yeah, it's my preference as well.
Yeah.
They didn't give it a name, though, which is really annoying that it's listed everywhere as Skydance and Marvel's Captain America and Black Panther game. Like, that's...
It's a long title, isn't it? Like, just give it codename something. I don't care.
Yeah, you give it the Assassin's Creed treatment, codename Panther or something like that, codename Hydra.
Yeah, codename like Red, White, and Black or something like.
Yeah,
something
absolutely.
Like that.
It's a bit weird to go live and not have a name kind of locked in, like copyright, trademark, like ready. Because this game, like if they've got a trailer, like a very short trailer, albeit. Skydance again, brand new studio. They're aiming for AAA, but we don't know how big of a scale of like they've actually scaled up in terms of like staff recruitment, everything like that. We don't really know what their output's going to look like. So we'd imagine next gen only. They're teasing it,
yeah.
But I don't think we're going to see.
I think
it
I'd
for
hope
some time.
last gen only. As someone who does actually own a physical PlayStation 5, I still hope it's like kind of PS5 only because. I feel like games need to go head in that direction.
Yeah,
now.
I think the industry's starting to lean that way now.
I think it should come to Xbox as well. But yeah, it should be like Series X, Series S, PlayStation 5 Pro.
Yeah.
Like, so PS4, no, you're not getting in on this one. I think we have hit that tipping point now.
Yeah, we certainly have. Where there's lots of games coming. One of the games that won't use that, we did see Disney's Illusion Island, which was announced, which looks like a spiritual successor to Castle of Illusion back in the Sega Mega Drive days. Goofy, Mickey, Minnie, Donald going on a 2D platform and adventure in a similar art style to kind of Rayman Legends is the vibe I got from it. It looks fun. That was kind of the only other announcement that we got that was relevant, really. It was very surprising, Richie.
Switch.
It was Switch exclusive.
Switch exclusive.
I don't know if it's timed or not. I'd imagine it'll come to other things possibly. But aside from that, the showcase was quite disappointing. When me and Richie wrapped up, they teased Jedi Survivor in the outro highlights. They teased Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora in the intro highlights, and then everything in between, like I said, was mobile games. They showcased like very briefly Aliens: Dark Descent gameplay, but that was it. They showcased about a 3-second clip of a Gargoyles remaster game, which was originally back out on the Genesis in 1995. But again, they literally showed a clip of the gargoyle jumping onto a ledge and hitting someone, and then it just ended and cut to the next story. Yeah, and it felt a bit odd.
Like a bit bait and switchy, I thought. I was expecting like a much larger scale from Disney.
I don't see the point in that showcase the way they did it. Because if you're going to bring a showcase like this in-house to show off the games you got coming, do it. This felt like it almost feels like Jeff Keighley gets a lot of criticism for making things like the Game Awards and games comes up in the night way too long and full of adverts and stuff. So it feels like they went with the pacing in this showcase incredibly fast, but then meant that there's no substance to pretty much anything they showed. Like we've just been talking about Amy Hennig's game. They didn't give his name. Yeah. Basically, he's like, oh yeah, she's working on their Black Panther Captain American World War II game. Move on. That's a blog post to me. That information.
Yeah, they didn't have any
because he didn't show. There's no if there was the name there, like okay, it's well off. Mm-hmm. But we were speculating that all the stuff that Disney, Marvel, Star Wars kind of having in the works that we know of already. Never mind the stuff that's rumored.
Yeah. And
none of it was there.
Yeah, like Spider-Man 2 was teased at the end as well, and it was like, why wasn't that in it? Real? Like, it's so weird.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, if you're not ready to show it, why are you doing this showcase now?
Yeah, it felt a bit rushed and timely. And then to put that into perspective, the next day during the Ubisoft Forward, they spent about 12 minutes just talking about Mario Sparks of Hope with the Rabbids for about 12 minutes. So we got 12 minutes in the Ubisoft one, and we were already on the clock for halfway through the Disney showcase, and we'd only seen one game from Ubisoft. So there's definitely a delicate balance. And again, this was at the D23 Expo, but to put that into perspective, they spent about 5 hours the next day talking about the movies and the TV slate. So they had the time for it. It just felt like maybe testing the water, and I think they maybe got it a bit too short with this one.
I'd say for a video game showcase like this, an hour is probably the sweet spot. It's not too long, so it's like people are going to look and go, oh, I don't have time to do that. But it's long enough where you can actually put a bit of substance in the show.
That's true. We did also actually get a look at Disney Speedstorm, which is the racing car adventure that features all of the Disney characters as well. So don't know what it's going to look like, because it was all like CGI trailer to start with, and then like I said, a bunch of mobile games. So we'll no doubt hear more about some upcoming Disney games from the actual publishers. I'm guessing Spider-Man will hear from Insomniac. Midnight Suns was there, but we're going to see that when it finally launches on December 2nd, and a couple of things in between. But it looks like we'll have to wait a little bit longer for Jedi Survivor and a few other things. Moving on though, next story of the week, we did get an update from CD Projekt Red regarding Cyberpunk. Of course, the much polarizing game that launched back in 2021 is finally receiving its first story expansion titled Phantom Liberty. Will release in 2023 for next gen only, so they are ditching PS4 and Xbox One, which means it's coming to Series X, S, PS5, PC and Google Stadia only. Richie, Rob, you've both completed Cyberpunk. Rob, what would you want to see from a... Because there was supposed to be multiple story expansions, but then because of COVID and the way the game was received, it's now been reeled back into just one and only story expansion. What would you like to see with Night City? Keanu Reeves is returning to continue V's story. What are your theories?
Yeah, I don't really have much in the way of theories on where they could go. I think what I would like to see is more of like the nomad kind of society and how kind of like that functions. Obviously there's like lots of scope within like Night City to kind of explore things, but I think like the nomad kind of tribe system, which was hinted at in the like the main game, I'd quite like to see that. I don't know about you guys. Or you, Richie?
I really don't know, because I think they've started building with Cyberpunk this like world that's seems like quite deep and rich in lore. So I'd almost want them to introduce a few elements that they haven't yet. So I wouldn't know what they mean. Something new that adds really to the lore of this world that we're just starting to explore. Because there will be a sequel to Cyberpunk, even if this is like the only story DLC. So
yeah,
I don't know.
do we think it's going to be a bit dead on arrival as an expansion? That's my worry. I think
we're almost 2 years out from the launch of Cyberpunk, and we're still talking about it as a kind of a buggy mess. It hasn't. I think they're kind of putting this DLC out to die, basically, in a way, to kind of like go, okay, we fixed the game, we promised some story DLC. There you go. We can now move on.
Yeah, well, this announcement comes in line with the Edgerunners update, so the Netflix anime series of the same name also released this week, so it kind of ties in with that. The Edgerunners update did come with, as you can imagine, bug patches and fixes, cross-progression saves as well, and it's an interesting one because we know CD Projekt Red have took such a hit with this game from not only like their brand quality and the AAA not AAA status, but I guess you know what I mean, like the trust from they had such goodwill going into it with the success of The Witcher 3.
They could do no wrong on The Witcher, right?
And they got greedy, and it screwed them over. And obviously now they're going to pivot to inevitably The Witcher 4, which is going to sell gangbusters, and it's probably going to get them back on top. But obviously they can't mess that up at all. Cyberpunk, we're probably not going to see a sequel for 7-8 years, I would guess, at this point, at the rate CD Projekt put out games. So yeah, it's a shame to see, because like I said, initially they had this long massive roadmap, and then unfortunately they've lost a year of it because of their own screw ups. They've lost potentially another half a year because of COVID and delays, and it's just kind of like, you must think conversations are happening like, is it worth it? But like you guys said, it's like got such a rich
digging
world.
Up these negative, digging up these like negative feelings that everyone has about this game and about us as a developer.
They need to move on from Cyberpunk 2077. I think that's what they need to do. So they need to get this out, get it in people's hands. They'll see a spike in sales and stuff, because you can pick it up probably dead cheap at the moment. And so people pick it up, potentially play the DLC. They'll jump into Cyberpunk, realize there is actually a very good game there. It's not like the game of the year contender that we were hoping it would be, but it's still a very good game.
Yeah,
So,
I think sacking off the previous gen's a good idea, because
absolutely.
that's how many of the issues like stemmed from that really in the original game. So
absolutely. And as someone who played it, I think I got about halfway through the story, and then I got stuck with a bug where I couldn't actually continue. I've not gone back to it since. So it's that kind of like, if I got spent on bugs and stuff, even though the game ran pretty well for me up until that point, how many people just like bought it and then they've been like, forget it, and it's just sat on the shelf now. They've got no intention to go back and finish it. I know it got its next gen kind of patch update earlier this year, but it is almost like the tainted well, and I think CD Projekt are probably smart to just like go back to The Witcher now. Go back, like come back home. Go back to the ex partner that
some good graces.
Just got, go back to mum and dad's house.
Get the next Witcher out, and then probably after that, bring out a Cyberpunk 2 when you'll be well. But hopefully you've like learned your lessons, which I think they have, because they took a kicking on this one.
Deservedly so.
It's definitely not going to be a No Man's Sky kind of scenario, is it? Where like they just quietly work on it, and there's no redemption arc.
No Man's Sky is a persistent online experience. So like, you committed to keeping that going. Cyberpunk's a single player game. Mm-hmm. The world, content is the content. Like, that's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but there's going to be no redemption arc to it, I don't think.
So,
I think it's going to be quietly put out to pasture and shot.
Generally, the perception I've got from it is people seem to not like the game because of all the issues and stuff. But the concept of this Cyberpunk world, people are still, I think, interested in. So I don't think the franchise is dead. Yeah.
No, I don't think it's dead. I think, again, it like realistically, even though like it's getting criticized, it's still sold like 15 million units or something like that. Mm-hmm. So, and it made them tons of money. So if they can kind of ride this wave and then they kind of give it sunset it for 5 years and come back, and you'd be surprised how many people probably just forgot about it. Like how many people, like realistically, we know because we paid attention. But if you're just like Billy Blogs who bought it for Christmas and it had a couple of bugs, but you still worked your way through and enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. If in half a decade's time they go, oh, we've announced another one, and like let's face it, we're not going to see it till probably close to 2030, if we're honest. Like because The Witcher's not finished yet. They've got next gen Witcher due out later this year still. You're probably talking a good 5 years until we see anything of the next Cyberpunk. So by the time it's out, I think everyone will remember it probably more fondly than it deserves.
Yeah, but I think what you have to remember as well with CG Projekt Red, The Witcher 3 was kind of their first big game. Mm-hmm. I mean, they made Witcher 1 and 2, but it was really The Witcher 2 that kind of put them on the map a bit. Witcher 3 was the one that kind of massively elevated the status, and then they got very ambitious with Cyberpunk to massively increase their workforce for that. But then ultimately, I think because of that, there's issues with that sort of scale up, and then they just didn't seem to give their developers time to do the game properly.
Yeah.
But then they took an absolute kicking because of it. So I hope this is a case of we've looked at that, we've learned a lesson, we've done that scale up now. We've had bigger teams now in place. We are now that bigger developer, because Cyberpunk was that step up from being a small AAA developer to a big one. And
definitely.
They're now there, so if the next Witcher game comes out and it comes out great to the quality and the ethos that we know they want to work towards, with no crunch and things like that, I think they can turn this around. I think they really can.
I think that the most telling thing will be on how big the DLC is. That will tell you what CD Projekt Red think of the franchise. If it's the scale of The Witcher, obviously, like we know, like their DLCs were essentially games in themselves in many ways. If the Cyberpunk expansion comes out and it's a bit like it's not massive, I think that'll tell you a lot about their kind of thoughts.
I think that'll be a good litmus test for how much. It's a good point, Rob. Good point. Moving on from The Witcher, though, folks. Switching over to some VR news, we got confirmation that Firewall 0 Hour will be getting a sequel titled Firewall Ultra. It'll be a upcoming PSVR2 title. For those who haven't played Firewall 0 Hour, it's arguably one of the best games on the original PSVR. And since day one, First Contact Entertainment have been focused on bringing quality experiences to virtual reality, and the team has always believed in pushing the boundaries of what's possible, which is why after 4 years of support for Firewall 0 Hour, this game had 10 seasons of content. It's arguably one of the most supported games on VR. It's going to get a sequel, no surprise. So they're proud to announce this. They're going to push the boundaries with next-gen live-operated first-person multiplayer shooter and Firewall Ultra. if obviously neither of you guys have a PSVR, but I enjoyed what I played of it. It's pretty much Rainbow Six Siege, but in VR. And it works. You plan your strategies, you bust in the doors, you do it all, but it works in VR. They've got it really, really good. Like the movement and stuff doesn't feel dizzy, complicated like a lot of movement in VR does, especially with fast-paced shooters. Hopefully, though, they're going to utilize the kind of VR Sense 2 technology with it's got eye tracking and the ability to swap weapons and bring up HUD indicators built into the headset. Sounds really, really good. So it's nice to see that we're getting a sequel to probably one of the more successful games on VR too. But Richie, we were talking pre-show about it, just saying kind of where we sit with VR2 at the moment, and think it's due out early next year. So kind of springtime we're expecting it. So if we do ever see a PlayStation showcase, expect to see more of it there. Where are you at on PSVR 2 and specifically Firewall Ultra? Because you like a bit of Rainbow Six Siege.
I do. I think the game looks actually generally awesome. The first one reviewed very, very well. My whole thing with VR at the moment, though, is you're basically playing the price of a console again for what I still think are lesser experiences than your traditional like console experience. It's getting closer, but VR, it needs to be not a faff to do so you can actually go, you know what, I'm going to play a VR game, put my headset on, and that's it. So I'm not trailing wires across the room or things like that. And it needs to be cost effective. Like if it's like £300-400 for a headset, that's way more than I'm willing to pay for it, to be honest. That's a lot of money that I could be spending on something else that I think I'd enjoy more, or sometimes you might just not even have the cash. That's the problem with VR for me. I think it's getting there. I'm glad Sony continue to support it, because I do want VR to still be a thing in like decades to come. Yeah. I just don't think we're there. For me personally, I don't think we're quite at a point where I think the initial outlay is worth the experiences I would get from it.
Good for you. Yeah, I'm kind of the same with VR. Like, I have a PSVR 1, and I don't think VR 2 is going to do, as it stands, I don't think it's going to do enough different that's going to merit me going, oh yeah, there's another £400 to get a small, like it works, but I don't use it enough to merit. Yeah,
eye tracking sounds really cool. Like, that's a really cool additional feature, like, in there. Like, so they're doing good stuff. But yeah.
Obviously, Rob, you don't have a physical console, so this is wiped out for you because you need the PS5 for it to work. So if you wanted to commit to VR2, you're talking £480 because it's gone up. Remember the price? Yeah,
£480. Don't forget about that 30 quid.
Whatever this 400 is on top. I think I got mine for like $299 in like a Black Friday sale back in the day with like a bundle with a bunch of games.
Yeah.
And even saying $299 seems pricey.
So if you want to just use PlayStation to get into VR, you're looking probably between $800 and $1,000 as the initial outlay.
Yeah, which is a significant amount just for like a VR experience on PlayStation.
Absolutely.
The game itself, I think, looks superb. I mean,
really good.
Yeah, I've been considering getting into like VR on the PC because I'm just going through the process of like upgrading my computer, which will be very, very comfortable with VR. So I am looking into it more as a technology, but I don't think I'm going to go down the PlayStation route for it. Again, as good as this title looks, I think I want a bit more flexibility in game types.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did see the Meta announce that the Quest 2 was going up by £100 as well, which we laughed at before the PlayStation news of their price was going up as well. So it just seems like tech for VR it's sitting around that kind of £400 to £500 mark. So it's not cheap as a hobby. We know gaming's not cheap as a hobby anyway. But then, there's this next step. So either way, VR, moving on to the next story of the week. We've got Sony have been slimming down on their technology. We have PS5 around. It's got a revised model that's been popping off all over the place with a smaller heatsink. And it's 2.5 pounds lighter as well, according to one of the breakdowns over on The Verge. It's going to improve cooling, and this is the version that's been starting to pop up and appear in Australia and other parts around the world. Not really much. We know that technology companies usually generally slim back on things. Hopefully this ironically, you'd like to think this makes it cheaper a little bit as hardware gets more built in practice. Obviously, it doesn't impact
Also,
us that much, but
importantly, cheaper ship as well, which I think is one of Sony's main motivations. Like £1 off a package to send across the world may seem insignificant, but the costs add up.
yeah.
When
I mean, if you're shipping
you
a
have
million
shipping
of them
internationally
as well,
yeah, right.
I don't think, considering they just put the price up of the console, I don't think end users going to see this money. This is cost.
Oh, this is Sony.
I mean, I'm saying cost cutting, but I mean it will be cost cutting as you mentioned because of the weight of the console and shipping. If it might not have any negative impact on performance, so which is fine if you can make exactly the same product output in terms of output, but at a cheaper rate. That's a smart thing to do in business, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't expect. I'm not expecting a.
No, it's definitely for Sony's benefit as
Yeah,
opposed to anybody else's.
absolutely. And one of the things from a hardware to a software standpoint, we also got a firmware patch updated for the PS5 this past week as well. Finally bringing out that 1440p support. They've added in game lists and some new social features that I've rolled out. So there's a YouTube search through voice command that nobody's going to use. They've integrated the PlayStation app with a YouTube search built into it. So if you are looking for kind of trophy help and support, you can do that now as well. I think the only real big thing, aside from the 1440p to come out with this update, was you can now launch PS4, PS5 remote play through your PS app. So, Richie, you do a little bit of remote play, but you predominantly use the console version of it, right? You don't do it on the phone.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I've got my PS4 in my office, I've got my PS5 downstairs, so I basically use remote play to bounce between them, and because the PS5's storage is quite limited, often if it's like at the moment Trails of Cold Steel, just start playing it. It's a PS4 game. You're not seeing any benefit from playing that on the PS5 console. Mm-hmm. So I've installed that on my PS4.
Cool.
So if I want to play downstairs, I'll remote into my PS4 for that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I use it, because basically I'm just using this as in some ways as external storage.
Yeah.
But remote play on the phone has a long way to go for me, largely because it doesn't support third-party controllers like the Kishi, which is annoying. Yeah,
absolutely. It's interesting with remote play because at the moment what you have to do is turn on your console, then boot up the app and do it that way. So you have to physically turn on your console beforehand before you can connect to remote play. Whereas this is saying if it's in rest
away
mode,
from home, it defeats the objective.
Yeah, you need to ring home and say, "Mum, can you turn on my PS5 for me while I'm like away somewhere?" Whereas this way,
no electricity bill's too high this month.
Exactly. If you've left it in remote play, in rest mode, you can just boot it up and connect that way. Oddly enough, on the PlayStation blog website, what still always makes me chuckle is the images they've used for showcasing the app. They're using an iPhone. Sony make their own handsets. The Sony Xperia devices that they only have like 1% of the market share, but they actively go for an iPhone for these image renders rather than their own product. It's like, imagine working on that Xperia team and seeing this and being like, come on, guys.
It's a choice I don't personally fully understand, because I remember when the original Backbone launched, it was originally iPhone only. And yes, I get in terms of single model of handset, the iPhone is by far the most popular. But Android has more devices in the world in total, so for me it makes more sense to produce your device for Android first and then Apple after.
It's just a choice. It's a choice.
Yeah.
It makes me chuckle when companies have like in-house things doing the same thing and then they just don't bother with it. But then again, Richie, we do a Google Stadia podcast where we've seen Google basically shun everything. I think my more recent one is there's an advert for Google the Chromebooks they're promoting, and at the end it shows you all of the logos of every Google thing, like from Gmail all the way through to like Google Wallet in one splash screen, then it all pulls into just the Google logo. No Stadia logo there, and it's like, guys, come on, like it's your own brand, like just throw it up. It's just the letter S. Whack it up there. But we digress. Final few updates for the show. Rob, you'll be excited to hear this. Yakuza 8 is supposedly coming up at the new RGG Summit, which takes place on September 14th.
I'm really excited about it. I'm a genuine Yakuza fan now.
You've been converted. You know what? I almost played it the other before The Last of Us came. I had like a week in between games, and I was looking at the PlayStation Plus list of all of them. And what put me off actually installing one is I couldn't remember where we recommended to start. So I looked at like Zero, Kiwami thingy, and I thought I couldn't remember which one you'd recommended to actually use as a start and jumping off point. So I stayed away from doing it, and then stuff got in the way, and then
Yeah, so
I've
that's
played a
the
bit
same
of
thing
Like a
I'm doing
Dragon.
now. Yeah, so I'm considering playing another one, and I'm like, all right, so I've played Zero. Like, where do I go to from now? Like, what's like the best second game to play? So
Did
I'm still trying
you
to figure
started
that
with
out.
Zero, didn't you?
Yeah.
So I think for you then it'd probably be like Kiwami, because that's the remake of Yakuza 1, and Zero is like a prequel.
Okay.
I think the other potential jumping in point is Like a Dragon, because that's a spin-off.
Yeah, see, this is how complicated
Yeah,
it is.
it
It's like-
doesn't. It doesn't. We don't have a clue. So it was confirmed last year that they were working on another game, and it was revealed to be a sequel to 2020's Like a Dragon. But more recently, we've seen a handful of images about Yakuza 8 in a behind-the-scenes video from the studio. So RGG Studio is working on other games as well, but they also confirmed in November that it was continuing its Judgment series whilst working on a brand new game that has yet to be revealed. So at this RGG Summit, it's basically like a live stream broadcast, we should see updates on these projects. But yes, it could be anything, but it's most likely going to be the official kind of Yakuza 8, whichever shape or form that takes. It just adds another game to the list of people saying like, well, do I start with the latest one and then just work my way back, or
yeah, do we go to remakes or what?
Kiwami? It's all over the place.
I'm in for it though, definitely.
In for the ride.
Yakuza has a new fan right here.
Right there. And rounding out with our final story of the week, Uncharted Thieves Collection, which includes Lost Legacy and also Uncharted 4, which came out in January, February this year on console. It will finally be getting its PC port. So PlayStation did confirm that 19th of October we'll be seeing a PS5 over to PC release once again. And this gets me excited for the mod squad once again. We've seen it with God of War. I saw another one where Rick and Morty this past week was Kratos was basically Rick and Atreus was Morty instead, and you can imagine how funny that looks when they're fighting Boulder and flying all over the place, and mythological dragons and stuff. We saw it with Spider-Man. Me and Rob, we joked about last week with Kermit the Frog in New York swinging about. And what could you do with Uncharted? What would you do? I'd personally just mod Indiana Jones into it, and you've got literally like an epic game right there.
Like a young Harrison Ford into that game is.
Or Lara Croft.
Yeah, you could have anything. That's like the easy go-to one. Any crazy outliers that you guys would mod into Uncharted 4 on PC?
Homer Simpson.
Just the go-to
I
one.
don't know why that came to mind, but I think it'd be hilarious.
Homer Simpson. Pac-Man. Just everyone's Pac-Man or a ghost. That would be one.
I'll just Crash Bandicoot. I'd have Crash
Yeah,
Bandicoot.
I mean,
That's definitely.
that would get very interesting in... There's a particular part in Uncharted which features Crash Bandicoot, so it would be interesting.
Yeah,
to see.
you did know. You just play Uncharted 1. Didn't you?
Oh, so it
Nathan
flips the
Drake into
script.
that.
Yeah, that's Nathan Drake collecting Wampa fruits. That would be great. Richie, have you played Lost Legacy yet?
Yeah, I've got the platinum.
You did. I know for a while you put it off. I didn't remember if you ever got around to playing it.
I played it. I think earlier this year.
All right,
maybe
okay.
end of last year. But
Terrific stuff. Yeah, great games. And we're still yet to see what
loved
the Uncharted world has got in store. With the last entry we had was Lost Legacy, which was 2017. So we are like 5 years on from the last entry, and we know Naughty Dog are too busy doing remakes to do whatever. But the studio's big enough to have two projects on the go at any given time. So fingers crossed we see some more from Nathan Drake or the Uncharted world at some point in the future.
Nathan's meant to be. I think Naughty Dog did announce like they've retired Nathan Drake as a character.
It was the end of his story, but prequel, sequel, spin-offs, remakes.
I think in the next Uncharted, in an Uncharted 5, I think Nathan Drake will be in it, but you'll probably not play as him.
Mm-hmm. I could see them going back to the well and doing a collection in the ilk of Last of Us Part 1. Just because
Do a
I would love
remake
to
of-
see... Yeah, I mean, Uncharted 1's like 10-year-old at this point, so it actually does... 2008 did it come out? Yeah, so it's actually older. I think that definitely does merit a ground-up remake. Obviously, it'll be harder to do.
And the quality jumps that happened between those games was massive.
huge.
Especially between 1 and 2.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it was
And then
ridiculous, wasn't
there's
it?
another big jump between 3 and 4, but there was literally a console generation in between them. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, like one feels like the odd kind of like
The outlier.
the younger brother of the
Two kind
in terms
of
of
one
quality.
kind of established the franchise. Two kind of going right. This is what an Uncharted game should be.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, 2 and 3 are quite interchangeable in terms of like quality, scope, and gameplay and such. But older games, and I'd love to see it. Also, throw in Golden Abyss. Shout out to Golden Abyss on the PlayStation Vita. It's in my opinion, it's better than Uncharted 1 in terms of story. So it's just unfortunately on a handheld that no one has access to. So it's all there. It's all there waiting to be used. And then the final story.
Bring it through the cloud.
Yeah, just a nice little fun one to round out at the end of the week. They've added part of the software update we just discussed in the previous story. PlayStation have revealed a new feature for trophy hunters out there where you can now reveal all hidden trophies in one swoop with the new update. So rather than having to individually go in and go, hidden trophy, press the options button, scroll down to reveal trophy to see what the hidden information is per trophy. You can now just switch on a little toggle, reveal all. They're all there for you. Obviously, spoilers might still happen, but as someone who goes through and tries to collect them, it's so annoying when you've got like the last 15 trophies on the list are all hidden. So you got to go in and go, what was that again? And then you back out, you forget what it is, you go back into your trophy list, and it's rinse and repeat. It's a little qualities of life, but for the trophy hunters out there, nice little feature.
I don't think you can complain about spoilers when you're actively revealing hidden information. Like, that's on you at that point.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, it's like when you click a spoiler tag, right? That's on you.
Yeah, I've had a few people say like, oh well, yeah, it's going to spoil it for you, but you're right. Yeah, if I'm actively going in for trophies, I'm not playing it in that way.
If you're worried about spoiling the game for yourself, don't look at the trophy list before you play it.
Yeah,
play the game how you want to play it. Then you can look at the trophy list later.
Exactly.
So like, the choice is yours. So.
The choice.
And you could it also go individual. So
yeah.
And usually, if the story trophies all in the block at the top, so you can figure out where to look at.
But we'll get there, boys and girls. We'll get there. But that does bring us to an end of this week's episode of Talking the PS, episode 13 of your weekly PlayStation show, where we round up all the PlayStation cloud gaming news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/Helix Cloud Games, or up there in the digital clouds on your podcast preference of choice. Don't forget, if you haven't done so already, give the video a like, subscribe, and click that bell so you are kept in the loop with all of our great content. We do have a lot on the horizon planned. More importantly, our Helix Cloud Celebrations 3rd year anniversary this October 1st on a Saturday. We'll be playing games all day long, drinking beers, eating pizza, doing giveaways. We've got some stickers, some apparel to pick up, and a Google Nest Mini to give away. So come along, join us, celebrate, and more importantly, let us know in our Discord server. Link is in the description below if you'd like to chat to us about what you'd like to see, what games you'd like to play, and if there's anything in particular you'd like us to talk about, because we will be doing the shows live. This show, Sounds of Stadia, CloudQuest, they'll all be up there to watch along and be in the chat for as well. But that does round us out. So thank you to everyone who's watching and listening for this week. Episode of CloudQuest goes up this Friday on free feeds, Richie. Our Helix Heroes, of course, do get it up to 6 days early. Can you remember what we spoke about on this week's CloudQuest?
Yeah, we're talking about whether or not Stadia is considered to be next gen or not.
Next gen or last gen?
It's kind of up in the air.
It is, and it ties in with the Cyberpunk news we just covered in this very show, that it's next gen only, and Stadia was part of that conversation. So if you want to go check that out, CloudQuest, available this coming Friday on free feed. But if you are a Helix Hero, one of our other wonderful members of the channel, over 50 of you supporters over there, you get it now. It's live now. Go enjoy it. Go check it out. But that's been it for Talking the PS. My name's been Chris.
I've been Richie. And
I've been Rob.
And remember, folks, play whatever makes you the happiest. Take care. Have a great week, everyone. See you on the next one. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.